I've got this bizarre thing going on with a weird kid in my apartment building that has continued to freak me out to a ridiculous point. I live in an apartment complex in Hilton Head, South Carolina. The building is fairly nice, and the residents are mostly families and older people. I'm probably the youngest person living here on my own. Each floor has 4 apartments. Mine is on the 2nd floor in the back of the building. I noticed pretty early on that the peepholes in this building were at this crazy wide angle. When you look through them, you can see pretty much the entire floor. Call me paranoid, but I always look through the peephole whenever I go out to the kitchen to get a drink at night. I always have, anywhere that I've lived with one. I don't know. I guess it makes me feel more aware of what's going on or something. The people who live directly across from me are a middle-aged guy and his wife. I'm not sure who lives next to me, but the apartment on the other side of the middle-aged guy is a woman and her little girl. I'm bad at judging ages, but I'd guess the kid is around 10 years old. So one night, I looked through my peephole, and to my surprise, the little girl was standing outside of her door, just standing there with her back to it, in a nightgown. It was really weird, considering it was about 2 a.m., but there she was, just standing there. I half considered opening my door and asking if she was okay, but then she opened her door and went back into her apartment. After that, I checked the peephole more frequently, and soon enough, a few days later, the same thing. It was a little earlier, I think around 12:30, but she was just standing outside her door, plain as could be. She looked around a bit and then went back in. The very next night, I look out my peephole, and she's standing in front of my door. Not like up against it. She's in the middle hall facing my door. It scared the shit out of me. So I'm just standing there watching this creepy little kid standing in front of my door at something like 2 in the morning. Then she went back to her apartment. For my own sanity, I look out again the next night. It's past midnight, and the hallway should be empty. But there she is again. The little girl, standing eerily still, in nothing but her nightgown. This time, though, something's different. She isn't just staring at my door. She's slowly raising her hand as if to knock, hesitating as if unsure. Suddenly, she turns her head sharply towards the stairwell, as if hearing a sound I can't. Her body tenses, and she swiftly presses her finger to her lips, signaling silence as she stares right at my door. My heart races. What is she hearing? What is she hiding from? Just as I'm about to pull away from the door, curious to grab my phone to maybe record this, the sound of heavy, dragging steps echoes from the stairwell. The girl gives my door one long, mournful look before disappearing into her apartment with a soft click. I press my eye closer to the peephole, straining to see what might emerge from the stairwell. But just as I do, all the lights in the hallway flicker and go out, plunging the place into darkness. The last thing I see is a shadowy figure emerging at the far end of the hall, moving towards where the girl had just been standing. I back away slowly from my door. I still have no idea who or what she saw or why she was standing out there every night. But I never saw her again. It was a typical Tuesday morning. I woke up at the ungodly hour of 6:30 a.m. to crank out some last-minute homework. My mom left at about 6:45 to take my little sister to school and said she would return in about half an hour to take me. I went into the family room to turn the music up on our Sonos player and then went into the bathroom to get in the shower. I turned the music up loud so I would hear it in the bathroom. My hand was inches away from the nozzle that turned the water on when suddenly the music stopped. Figuring the speaker lost its Wi-Fi signal for some reason, I stepped out of the bathroom and peeked around the corner to look at the system. I was about to run down the hall to turn it back on when I saw it. A gloved hand reach over and pull the cord out of the socket. It was like somebody had hit me in the gut with a baseball bat. I stepped back, terrified at what I had just witnessed. Across the hall from the bathroom is a closet where we keep the towels and soap. I grabbed my phone, entered the closet as quietly as possible, and barricaded myself inside. My phone was glued to my hands. I was so shocked that I couldn't even think straight. All I could hear were 3 men talking back and forth, plastic bags shuffling, and glass items breaking. I was about to call the police when I thought about my mom. She would be home any minute now, and the thought of what they might do to her terrified me. I called her. My exact words were, "Mom, okay, listen to me. 3 or 4 men just broke into the house and are robbing the place. I'm hiding in the hall closet and have the door wedged shut. Park at the neighbor's house and call the police now." In a shaky, terrified voice, she said, "Okay," and hung up the phone. She was only about 3 minutes away but promised to return as fast as possible. Now, it was just me and the intruders. I decided to call the cops too and told them the situation. Police were already on their way, but our house was further out in the suburbs than most. I knew it would take them a bit longer to get here than I hoped. I could still hear the intruders, now maybe 4 or 5 of them. We live in a fairly big house, lots to rummage through in the bedrooms, kitchen, and office. Maybe I had enough time before they reached me. Minutes passed that felt like hours, and I could hear them getting closer. A couple of them were at the end of the hallway, their footsteps mere feet from the closet. I actually looked back on my life, thinking that I was going to die. Just then, 2 dark shadows appeared at the bottom of the door. Tears began pouring down my face, knowing that I might actually get killed or kidnapped. I saw the doorknob begin to turn, so I grabbed it tight, hoping they would think it's locked. My blood ran cold, and I got sick to my stomach as he was now close enough to hear him clearly say, "Shit, it's locked." They must have then gone to the bathroom across the hall and noticed my clothes, because their footsteps grew quieter. It was then that I heard police sirens, multiple ones blaring. Never before has a sound brought such relief. That is, until I heard a voice at the door say my name. I opened it, and a man in a police vest looked at me and asked, "You all right, son?" Outside, cops and cop cars littered the street. My mom was right where I told her to stay, hysterical. She ran up, wrapped her arms around me, and held me for a lifetime. As I stood there, enveloped in my mom's arms, relief washing over me, a police officer approached, his face somber. He cleared his throat before speaking, his words slow and deliberate. "I'm glad you're safe, son, but there's something I need to ask you." He paused, looking between my mom and me with a seriousness that brought a fresh chill to my spine. We apprehended the men and we found this in the pocket of one of them. The officer pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket and handed it to us. It was a photo, worn and faded, but unmistakably a picture of our house taken from across the street. On the back, scrawled in a hurried print, were words that made my heart stop. "Make sure the boy finds it first." The officer's next words were almost drowned out by the pounding in my ears. "Do you know what this means?" he asked. I shook my head no, my mind racing. My mom then chimed in, "You better ask my ex-husband, wherever he is."
I live alone in a small house I rent close to work. The day started out the same as every other weekday. I went to work, returned home, made some dinner, and then sat on the couch to watch a show or a movie. It was Friday, so I liked to stay up a little later than usual, but sometimes my eyes wouldn't let me. I turned on a movie around 8 o'clock, and at some point, I fell asleep during it. It wasn't until a sharp and sudden sound made me snap back out of sleep. It was my phone, making a sound I had never heard before. I picked it up from the coffee table and squinted at the bright screen. It was a notification for a message I received on Facebook. Opening it, I was taken straight to the Facebook Messenger app, which I had never actually used before. I was confused, seeing a text from a man simply saying hello. His name looked familiar, but he was definitely not one of my close friends. I clicked on his profile and saw that we had one mutual friend and had actually been connected on Facebook for 4 months. That sparked my memory from when I accepted his invitation. Honestly, I just accept anyone's invite as long as they have mutual friends with me. I don't share anything too private online, so it never really mattered. I went back to the Messenger app and just said hi to be polite, though I was beginning to recognize how late it was and how odd it was to randomly text someone at this hour. Immediately after I sent it, the 3 dots appeared as the person typed, followed by a new message. Reading it, I gasped, dropped my phone on the table, and looked over at the window. The text read, "I love that movie too. We should watch it together." I didn't see anything outside, though. It was completely black. I was shaking, knowing now that someone was definitely watching me. I felt super uncomfortable, not knowing how long he'd been watching. Then I heard my phone beep again and light up with a new message. I was horrified and just stared at my phone on the table, unable to move and too scared to look at the message. I can't even tell you how long I was frozen there, as everything felt strange before the doorbell rang. I jumped again, now with tears in my eyes from my panicked state. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, then tried to explain my situation as best I could while overwhelmed and upset. The operator told me they had someone on their way, just 5 minutes out, and to lock myself in a room and wait for help to arrive. I agreed, trying to calm myself down. Just as I ended the call, another message came through, then another and another, spamming my phone with that awful beeping sound before I turned it on silent. There were 10 or 15 messages in all caps from the man demanding me to open the door. Then, in the very last message, it simply read, "Never mind." I didn't know what that meant, but it only took a few seconds for me to find out. A soft bang came from the other side of the house. It was very muffled, as if it were far away. I stood still, listening for a moment, before another one, louder this time, echoed through the hallway by the kitchen. Able to hear the sound more clearly now, I could tell it was coming from the basement. I quickly ran to my bedroom, hearing another much louder bang followed by something shattering. I locked myself in the room, silently crying from the fear of the situation, as I listened to the sounds of the man making his way through the basement. I knew I locked the basement door to the rest of the house, but I was sure the man would break through at any minute. I heard the doorknob rattling, followed by several shoves, as if attempting to push through it, before 3 loud knocks came from the front door. "Police! Open up!" I sprinted to the front door, unlocking it and letting them in. I pointed to the basement door, talking fast and telling them that he was in there. They immediately took their guns out and rushed towards it. The intruder's footsteps ran down the steps away from the door as the officers opened it and carefully followed after. They caught the man after a quick struggle. To keep this short, the man had broken in through the window well in the basement. As for who he actually was the man on Facebook. I had assumed he was using a fake account or something, but no, that was actually him. He didn't give any reason for breaking in aside from apparently just wanting to talk to me. It was bizarre and creepy. I'd never had anything like that happen before, as I thought these were things just in the movies. Later that week, I went through my Facebook friends and removed anyone I didn't know personally. A few days later, as I was finally beginning to feel a bit safer, another message popped up on my phone. It was from the same man. Somehow, he had managed to message me again. The text was chilling. "See you soon, friend." I stared at the screen, frozen, my heart pounding. How did he manage to contact me I had blocked him everywhere. As I raised my eyes from the phone, I caught the faintest movement outside my living room window.
Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.